Thanks everyone for joining. Today we'll be talking about Azure Blockchain Workbench and Microsoft Power BI and how you can leverage those two technologies to give you this one-click blockchain deployment and quick reporting. So just about me really quickly. Hello, my name is Daniel Norkin. I'm co-founder and CEO of Envision Blockchain. A little bit about my background with a couple of different industries with regards to telecom. Used to work for a nonprofit financial organization. I transitioned into hospitality. One of the previous work experiences that closely relates to what we're doing here at Envision Blockchain is after the hospitality industry, then I moved into the IT consulting space, where we did a lot of project and portfolio management and implementation services and integration services. So why that's relevant is because when we introduce Envision Blockchain Solutions, Envision Blockchain Solutions is a blockchain ledger agnostic system integrator. So when you think about that, it's important to really highlight what our mission is. And our mission is to reshape and align today's enterprise systems, allowing organizations to recognize the new value in tomorrow's industry vertical solutions. And that's a really key takeaway from everything that we're going to talk about today, and realistically everything that we talk about with blockchain. The one rule about blockchain you're going to hear time and time again, if not from our organization, then some other organization, that the first rule about blockchain is you don't talk about blockchain. Well, it's kind of hard because when we're integrating blockchain solutions, right, obviously you got to talk a little bit about blockchain. However, when you take a look at the solution, at the end of the day, the end-to-end solution, most of the users, and we're not talking about the administrators, right? We're not talking about the developers. Most of the users that are leveraging the solution, they have no idea that blockchain is behind it. Blockchain isn't an application, it's a technology. It's kind of like, when we're leveraging some solution right now, we don't realize what database we're using, or we don't realize what framework of the front end we're using, right? The users don't care about that. They want to know what value do they get from utilizing the solution. So we recognize that. And what we do is we position ourselves with our services to help organizations out to realize these for themselves as well. So we wanted to set up our services and our solutions that align with different maturity levels within, quote unquote, the blockchain journey that an organization has. So we take organizations through these immersion labs, which is we help them find their aha moment, where we basically talk about what blockchain is. It's a 101, but at the same time, we have working applications and smart contracts for them to put their hands onto it, so you can understand from a user perspective what's the value. Then we move over to the use case workshop. So you may not know what the use case is. You may have a series of different use cases. We help you understand what those are. We help you plan for the transformation, help you figure out your strategic roadmap, if you will, and shortlist what use cases make sense when we leverage this sort of technology. We do solution deployments, so from the development and the implementation, from proof of concepts all the way to production full-scale deployments. We have support services and DevOps methodologies, so that once you implement your solution, how can you continuously iterate these kind of technologies so that you get MVP 1, 2, 3, and start to build on that. System integration is something that is the key fundamental aspect with blockchain solutions, and specifically with Envision. So you may have existing line of business applications, you may have IoT devices, you may have some ERP systems that you need to have this sort of integration data flow. And that's exactly where we come into play. So just one more thing, let me just showcase a little bit of our competencies. We're members of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. We're certified by the Linux Foundation. We're Quarter partners, we're Quarter certified. And then if you take a look at some of the other blockchain networks out there, both public and private, we're blockchain network developers, and we have administration support as well. Likewise, should you need full service IoT or big data analytics, machine learning, system integration, full stack web and mobile development, which is what you're going to see when you start to put together these solutions, and that's exactly what this webinar is about. It's kind of this one-stop shop methodology that we can take the blockchain solutions and integrate that with whatever other technologies that your organization is looking for. So it's important for us to kind of think about this technology for a second. Just how has this technology really changed the way that we work together? And in order for us to do that, we kind of have to do a little bit of a history lesson. So when we take a look at the industrial revolutions, we take a look at, how many people were on the earth. And this is, and this is something that is going to make sense once we get a little further down this path. So around the 1800s, there was an estimated, say, 1 billion individuals, okay? 100 years later, 1.6 billion. And then dramatically to the point that the 1900s are to where we are right now, 2019, there's an estimated 7.7 billion people. I mean, we almost, 7x this number. So when we think about this, there's 3.8 billion people that use the internet today. There's 8 billion devices that will be connected to the internet by 2020. And more than 570 new websites are created every single minute. But we didn't just start there, right? So for 1 second, let's see where this makes sense. So in the first industrial revolution, the 18th and 19th century, right, this was our life. We were in villages. We had horses, we had, the horse and carriage, right? We were confined to one specific area. And, we are based in New Jersey. This is the Morristown Museum. If you happen to be in the area, rarely recommend to go there. So this was the fire truck back in the day in the 1800s. And that arrow is pointing to where the horse was actually taking the fire truck. The fire truck was made of wood, and a little backwards, but that's what we had at the time, right? This was the technology. And what we're looking at right here in the 1800s, right? We wanted to do things better. We wanted to do things faster. So all of a sudden we start making things that allow us to do whatever work we need to do better. We're looking at, what we can, jokingly say is one of our first integration services, right? You have your spring, your gears, you have your governor, it's turning, which is making other things turn. So around this time frame, everyone's looking at how we can do things better. The steam came, then we had steam trains, steam locomotion, which allows you now to get out of your village and now to, take this train and go and do work or go and meet people and go and connect with someone that's outside of your area. It's a lot faster than taking this horse and carriage that we were showing before. And obviously then we were making iron. And we had ways that we can do work and start to connecting to individuals on a different level. And then the second industrial revolution came up from, it's said it's from 1870 through 1914, and electricity came. Changed the way we're doing things forever. We had the invention of the light bulb. I just read this one article the other day that Thomas Edison, because of the light bulb, was able to now work more, right? You didn't need to just stop work when the lights go out. Now we can turn on the lights and keep on working, right? And then we came up with steel, which allowed us now to form these train tracks and kind of, if at one point the innovation was only taking us from our village to one particular city that wasn't too far, now we have these train tracks that are going cross country. So if you were in one part of the location and you wanted to do business, or you wanted to meet with relatives, or you wanted to go and see someone, right? We always have this innate, something in us to want to do more, do better, connect, make things faster. Everything has to be faster. So then we came into the third industrial revolution, and it started around the 1980s, right? And you're going to find mixed opinions depending on who you talk to. You can talk to some folks that say that we're still in this third industrial revolution, and some folks are saying that we're out of it. But let's just say that, this third industrial revolution brought about the computer. This was the first computer. So imagine doing business on something like this. It was long, it was tedious, but man, oh man, did it really innovate the way that we were doing things. And then we decided, okay, well, look, now we know what the components of the computer are. We know what we need. We need a mouse, we need a keyboard, we need a monitor, not just one little piece. So we're going to manufacture this product. This product is the computer. The computer isn't anything without these components, so that we can, mass adopt it. And then, of course, we have this, everything got better, faster. Everything got smaller. Now we have these, touch screens that turn into tablets with the keyboard, and you can remove them, you can put them back together. This is kind of the current day technology. This allowed all of us to now connect, not just on a local level, or maybe where you're doing business with someone, or you're connecting with someone, right? You can either do business or you can connect, business or personal. You're connecting not just by taking a train to the next town, but now you have a business idea, and you can connect with someone halfway across the world with sending an email, with sending a message. So this is kind of where we're at right now. And there's this fourth industrial revolution that a lot of folks are talking about. A lot of the sharpest minds are coining this fourth industrial revolution. And there's this debate: is it here? Is it not? And just for this webinar, just for this argument's sake, I'm going to say that we are here. We are at the very early stages of this fourth industrial revolution. And, I would like to say that everyone that's joined this particular webinar is an early adapter, is there to educate yourself on where are we and how can I leverage this to do business, right? And how can I leverage this to make more money? How can I leverage this to make connections on a whole nother level? So what is this fourth industrial revolution that we're talking about? And we're not talking about building new things per se, right? In the first industrial revolution to the third, we were talking about manufacturing and new business processes. Here we're talking about how can we connect to all of the 7.7 billion people that we talked about at the beginning. How are we going to connect on a way that we can go beyond trust? So we have this IoT ecosystem. We have this Internet of Things. And what are these things that everyone's talking about? We're talking about solar panels, talking about lights and cars, smart refrigerators. We have locks, phones, computer systems, satellites, right? Now these devices that are connected are sending messages across the internet, across these networks, and transmitting important information that we really care about. We also have artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is interesting. We have two schools of thought with AI. We have, AI is going to replace humanity, right? And this is kind of a dramatic thought. It's kind of a little bit over the edge. But then there's this other thought that it's going to improve humanity. It's going to improve the way that we work. So we have chatbots. We have, Siri, Alexa, Cortana. This is all pieces of, AI. We have, machine to machine learning. You can do predictive analytics and predictive maintenance, for example. If you have this collection of all this big data, think about all the different devices that we're talking about. 8 billion devices that are going to be connected. By 2020, they're all streaming data. So how are we going to make sense of this? How are we going to forecast all of this? And you can make the argument, how are you going to make sure that this data is accurate and truthful? And for that, we enter blockchain. And blockchain, this is one way that you can have a graphical representation of blockchain. It's this, interconnected web, if you will, and nodes and participants and users, etc. So, that's kind of our spin on the fourth industrial revolution. Is it here? So, we're not going to spend too long on what is blockchain. Like I said, we don't really talk about what is blockchain. It's like the first rule, right? But just to set the groundwork, if we're going to talk about nodes and smart contracts in this presentation. So, if there's terminology that you're not familiar with, we do have an offering that we call this immersion lab that I was telling you at the beginning. It's this half-day workshop where we take you through a blockchain 101. We show you smart contracts. We show you, under the hood what it looks like. But the very basic level, just trying to keep it simple. If you look on the right-hand side, it's a distributed ledger. Think about, a database. I know some folks say blockchain is not a database, but we have to explain it somehow, right? Think about a database, a distributed ledger, which is sent to multiple individuals. This is what they mean by decentralized. So the information is hitting these ledgers or these databases at the same time. And you have nodes in the network that hold a copy of the ledger. It has this chain of historical records that cannot be changed. It's immutable. Immutable means that there's no edit or modify. Once it hits the blockchain, it's in there forever, as long as the network stays up and running. And then it's programmed via smart contracts. For those folks that are, into databases, you can think of a smart contract similar to a stored procedure. It's very similar. For those folks that are not into databases, don't know what a smart contract is, if you've ever created a rule in Outlook that says, if this person with this subject line sends you this message, then move it to that folder, that's essentially what a smart contract is. We're talking about programming of business logic or some sort of logic, and that's the application that sits on top of the blockchain network. So some of the values that's offered through blockchain implementation, this is once you've taken this technology and you've implemented this into a solution, you're going to realize this immutable data, you're going to see transparency and real-time workflow. And this value provides a new level of trust between business parties that the world has not seen before. You don't have to worry about the authenticity of the data because we know that this is what our governance structure has said to be true. Okay, so just one more history lesson on the blockchain history, right? I'm starting with the end in mind. Right, so we have enterprise use case development and industrialization. And we're going to fly through this really quickly. But at the very beginning, back in 2008, brilliant mind of Satoshi Nakamoto released the Bitcoin white paper. You can make the argument it was at the same time as the financial collapse in 2008. So therefore, there was this need to put trust into something other than a government. Right? So let's put the trust back into the people. And, that's when Bitcoin really took off. But the next step of this evolution of blockchain was the separation of blockchain and cryptocurrency. So when we're talking about blockchain, we're not talking cryptocurrency. Yes, cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin and all the other ones, they absolutely do run on blockchain technology, but they are not one and the same. Okay, and then in 2015, smart contracts are introduced. So now there was this way that blockchain technology was utilizing this business logic, if-then statements at a very high level to make actions to trigger certain events. And then from that point, from 2015 until the present time, there's been innovation of DLT frameworks, which stands for Distributed Ledger Technologies of Frameworks and consensus algorithms. etc. So that's how we got to this enterprise use case development, because at that point, over the past 2 years or 3 years, you can make the argument that businesses now, enterprise organizations, or maybe SMB organizations that are looking at how can we leverage this blockchain technology to streamline our processes, to integrate systems so that they run off of accurate data or immutable data? Or how can we provide, for example, identity management to a way that gives this management of identity back to the people, as opposed to a central organization that is storing all the data and selling it for large profits, right? This has been a case, it's in the news, it's everywhere. So blockchain technology has the ability to kind of incorporate itself into enterprise use cases in a way that we really haven't seen yet. So this is really exciting that we're on the forefront of this. So, why? Why are we seeing a rise in blockchain adoption, today, as opposed to 2 years ago? And this is what's really bringing us into this particular presentation. So, what was going on? And Juniper did a blockchain enterprise survey that found that 65% of responding large enterprises, defined as those who employ a minimum of 10,000 staff, are considering or actively engaged in blockchain deployment, up 11% from the corresponding 54% figure last year. That's huge. That's huge for those that are looking at, what has happened, who's gonna cut their teeth on this technology first. Where can we get some use cases that have been active, that have provide some real ROI, so that I don't have to put my company at risk. I want some other folk to do something first, and let's go ahead and follow their lead, right? So this is important. The more success that we see, the more enterprise businesses that start utilizing it, the more the adoption could potentially grow. So what was the reason that it was up 11%, right? Why are we seeing that it's growing year over year? So we have a theory, and the theory is this: that businesses right now in 2019, soon to be 2020, you can spend less time with blockchain technology and spend more time developing the business around the blockchain technology. So what do we mean by that? I mean, it's kind of a broad statement, but if you take a look, there's the left side, there's the right side. The right side is kind of weighing down a little bit more. All right, so we're looking at the left side. Gone are the days of building blockchain from scratch. It's been done already. You don't need to go ahead and hire a developing team to go and develop a blockchain from scratch, unless, of course, you're building your own blockchain network. But realistically, that doesn't need to happen in order for you to be able to realize blockchain at the beginning, right? So what do we mean by that? And we're going to show you this over the next couple of slides, but realistically, wouldn't it be better if you can cut down your implementation time by half or by 75% by not having to build it from scratch, right? We're all about doing things faster, failing faster. Everyone loves their lean methodology. And again, I came from the project and portfolio management background. So obviously spend your budget where it's going to provide more ROI. So if you were looking at doing blockchain technology and you thought that it was, a long, multi-month process to go ahead and get started with just the technology aspect, let's not even talk about the business, those days are long behind us. Those days are, you might chuckle in your seat when you're hearing this, but those days are, that's like so 2017, right? That's only 2 years ago. But man, if you take a look at what's happening in this blockchain industry, I mean, every week there's new innovations, every week. It's something that we haven't seen the growth rate in this particular, in this particular industry. When I mean by industry, I mean, blockchain technology as a whole. It's being innovated just at such an alarming rate that we're really looking at what can we do to raise adoption. So spend more time developing the business. Get your stakeholders involved is what we're talking about. Make decisions based on the immutable data. Make decisions based on being able to streamline your processes. Wouldn't it be great if you were able to, do invoice reconciliation without having to, spend numerous hours in doing that, and it automatically does that for you? Or what about if you were to be able to track a particular part in a matter of seconds, as opposed to, days, weeks, something along those lines? Or maybe, you can make a purchasing decision based on some key data that is true. This is what we're trying to drive home. So we often get the question from our customers, where should you start? Right? There's like blockchain technology. It's like, what do we work on? Do we work on, the front end, the website? Do we have to piece everything together? And here's, from a very high level, what a blockchain implementation basically looks like, right? At the very, very, very high level, we're really talking about these 5 different, stages, if you will. The first one is infrastructure. You obviously have to build your infrastructure. And when we're talking about your entire solution, not just the blockchain. The blockchain by itself does nothing for you. You need to have the end-to-end solution in mind. Right? So maybe you have documents, maybe you have transactions, maybe you have assets, maybe you have, something that needs to show provenance, changes, something along those lines, right? So you have to build an infrastructure. Once you build your ground layer, think of it as building a house. You have to build the foundation for it to sit on. Then you need some sort of user interface, right? The blockchain network, it's all good, honestly. But, we're not operating in the days of MS-DOS when we're looking at a green terminal with, zeros and ones. That does nothing for us. We need to see, we need to see color. We need to be able to click on things. Our users need to be able to see this to be easy to use, and we need data analytics to come from all this. So that's where we talk about the user interface, right? UI, UX is a huge part in today's technology. And when we're talking about these blockchain solutions, it's really no different. We're talking about then business processes, right? So where we're talking about this codified business logic. If this happens, then that happens, process first. Technology, we say the technology is easy. It's not a big deal. Business process first. Let's figure it out where our standardizations are. What do our stakeholders need to see? And then, of course, we have governance. The governance also at the same time, what are the governance factors that we need to consider when we're developing this solution? Who are the participants? What does that all look like? And then, of course, at the very top, probably the most important one out of all of these is, what's the ROI? Where are we going to get the ROI from? So when we're talking about all this, we're talking about the bottom 2 pieces. If you leverage what we're about to show you, it's relatively simple at this point, because this Workbench and this Power BI solution that we're going to show you, it theoretically, at the very high level, takes care of these 2 bottom pieces. The user interface is done for you. The data analytics is done for you. The infrastructure is done for you. All now that you need is to have some folks that know about blockchain, that know about business process, to come in and help you out to understand about the business processes, gather the stakeholders, and help kind of navigate what could be some change management, right? It could be some organizational changes in the way that we promote it, in the way that we leverage this. But at the end of the day, let's not focus too much on the technology, because it's already done for you, So let's go take a look at this. We're talking about these 2 options. We're talking about the Microsoft Azure Blockchain Workbench, which, it has the phrase that it simplifies the development and provides an ease of experimentation with pre-built networks and infrastructure. So, we're gonna show you all this. I'm gonna show you what this demo is in a couple minutes. This is gonna click. So this is this one-click solution that has this entire network and infrastructure and user interface, and everything's all done for you. And then you have Microsoft Power BI that, so we were talking with some of the folks, some of the registrants before the webinar, and we kind of understood where most of the interests are. There's more interest in here about blockchain than there is about Power BI. I just do want to show this to you because I think that this is going to be a little bit eye-opening as to what's available to you so that you can kind of get the gears spinning, so to say. But Power BI is a business analytics service, and it delivers insights to enable this fast, informed decision. Again, everything's all about taking data and making sense of it so that you at least know what's going on. So let's go ahead and let's see what this actually means for you. So this is where I apologize, right? I'm going to get a little too technical, but this is important, right? Us as a system integrator in this space, we need to understand and we need to be able to convey what does a typical architecture of a solution leveraging blockchain look like. And we're not going to get into the schematics. We could show you data flow and how things work and how things interact. It's not the purpose of this webinar. The purpose of this webinar is just to basically show you a couple options to help you get started quick. This is what we're all about right now. So the architecture of this blockchain workbench gives you everything that you would see from a solution that's been fully built out. We're going to explain what that means. But if you take a look at it, right, from going from left, starting at the left, we have this identity and authentication. I don't know if anyone that's on this presentation here has ever interacted with the blockchain network before. I particularly, got into this by buying Bitcoin back in 2016. Obviously, when you go and you purchase a Bitcoin, you have to transfer that Bitcoin to a wallet. That wallet is this numerical, string of alphanumeric, right? So it's got letters and numbers, and that's your identity. So you can send some Bitcoin, for example, over to this particular identity, this, numbers and letters. It's just long string. So what Microsoft said is, hey, we're still going to have that because that's important in blockchain to have this kind of hash of your identity, but it's going to sit behind your Azure Active Directory. Right, so we are not going to worry about the 0 and X's and the 0 and 1s. We're going to worry about just the username and email address and passwords. And then if you move over here, you have your client application. This is your user interface. This is your web app. Comes with the web app already integrated out of the box. We have a gateway service API. So not only does it provide APIs that allow you to interact directly, in a matter of an hour with the user interface, but it also allows you to connect and build on top of it. And we're going to show you what that looks like afterwards. So there's all these exposed APIs that allows you to, use this to further develop. Then you have your message brokers. So incoming messages, outgoing messages, sending to the different technologies within your architecture. And then you also have your ledgers, right? You have your transaction routers and your ledgers. Right now, the Workbench comes with Ethereum, proof of authority, and the private version. It's not the public version of Ethereum, but that's the protocol. Developing it needs to be in a Solidity format. Again, we're not going to get too deep into the technical aspects. And then, of course, it comes with your own databases. So it comes with SQL database and a storage database, a blob storage for your images and documents and MP3s, MP4s, etc. And then you have, monitors. You have an IoT hub if you're connecting IoT devices to it. We're going to show you this in our demo over here. But what we're trying to say is that the way a solution looks like, if it's custom built, this is basically that. And just to take it one step further is that you have two options at the beginning. You can either start by developing a custom application, or you can start by developing the Workbench here and fail fast. It's really up to you. It's up to the company culture. It's up to, the budget. There's a lot of considerations and factors. But basically, you can either piece together an application infrastructure or use the pre-configured resource group. You can build web apps and APIs from scratch, or you can use the web apps and APIs that come out of the box. You can spend tedious time with integrating with legacy systems, or you can use the Workbench, which leverages Service Bus and Event Grid for all the messaging. You can have identities that are represented by the address, the 01s, the 0x's I was mentioning, or you can have identities that are represented through Azure Active Directory, or you could piece together the database, or out of the box comes with this Workbench, provides with the, the out of the box SQL for off-chain data storage. Again, I have to be super clear here. There is no right answer. We've been with clients that wanted to start with Workbench first, and we've been with clients that said, we don't want to start with Workbench. We know what we want. We want to build a custom application, and we want to piece things together because we kind of have something in mind, or, they want to take a different route. There's no wrong answer. It's just a matter of what works best, and we're just providing an option. Microsoft Power BI, Gartner has been saying this for the past couple of years, that it's a analytics and business intelligence cloud platform leader. And what we're talking about specifically with this Power BI report is that we have this Envision Blockchain Power BI report template that we're calling the Watchtower report. And the Watchtower report, what it is, it's provides you a really quick way for you to see all of your enabled applications that are deployed to the Azure Blockchain Workbench. We'll show you what that means in the next couple screens. The next couple screens is going to be all demos. So you have your deployed smart contracts. You can see what the smart contracts are and how many are there. You can see your smart contract state history. Again, if any of these terms are something that you're interested to learn about more, just send us an email. You see right there, info@envisionblockchain.com. We'll set you up with one of these Blockchain 101 immersion sessions. If you're interested in this, I think it'll be a good takeaway for you and your organization. You see your smart contract action history. And then, of course, we also have another report that we'll show you that's on another page of this solution that gives you a blockchain explorer. So you can see all the different blocks that are in your application and allows you to do this drill down. Something that's important with the prerequisites, obviously, is that you're going to need to download Power BI Desktop. If you haven't done that yet, it's free. It's on Microsoft's website. I believe it's microsoftpowerbi.com or microsoft.com/Power BI. You can just put that into Google real quick, find that. You can download it for free. It's an on-prem solution. You can pay a license to get the cloud version, but you still need the desktop version to publish to the cloud, and then you can distribute your reports to the rest of your team. Really neat solution. You can also, so in addition to prerequisites, you're going to need to create a Microsoft Azure account if you don't have one already. You're going to need to deploy the Microsoft Azure Blockchain Workbench. We'll show you how to do this in this demo. You have to develop a smart contract. Okay, so just because you deploy the Microsoft Azure Blockchain Workbench doesn't mean that you're ready to go. So there's still going to need to be some development work, right? You're still going to need to develop your smart contracts and some other files that the Workbench needs, but that's about it. And then, of course, you're going to need to enable Power BI to have access to the SQL Server by bypassing some of the firewalls. But again, if you're interested, just send us an email at info@envisionblockchain.com, and we'll show you all about that. So here's what the demo flow is for the rest of the webinar. We're going to show you how you can access the blockchain workbench. We're going to kind of show you the rest of the blockchain, solutions that allows you to do this one-click deployment. We're going to show you, the blockchain workbench. We're actually going to go into it. We're going to, open up a smart contract. We're going to interact with it. You're going to see some things move. Then we're going to show you how this Power BI report works, how it is that you could set it up. So we'll show you the first load, of course. And then, like I told you, after you have the workbench, then you start developing on top of it. right? So you can also bypass the Workbench in itself, but that's another conversation that we can explain to you. But you can essentially take it from here, very limited user experience, into something like this when you're leveraging APIs and such. So let's get into the demo, and we'll see if we can save some time. Okay, so here is this Microsoft Azure portal. If this is your first time looking at the portal, you can go and create the resources. You can have a dashboard. You can see all your virtual machines, your databases. If you don't know what Microsoft Azure is, just think of it like a taxi service. It's all of your favorite Microsoft services and other services. It doesn't necessarily need to be Microsoft, that are literally on demand. Okay, so as you use it, the more you use it, the more you pay. So let's go ahead to create a resource. And you can see that there's all these different solutions that's in this Microsoft Azure Marketplace, if you will. We can go right down to blockchain, and when we click on blockchain, you can see that we have the blockchain workbench. But if we take a look around, you see that there's the Ethereum Proof of Authority Consortium. Probably heard of that. You probably heard of Hyperledger Fabric, Corda, Quorum, Chain Code, Syscoin, and there's just loads more. We're not going to get too deep into that. Let me click on the Learn More, and you'll see. So when we go ahead and we deploy the Azure Blockchain Workbench, this is what's deployed. Okay, all of these resources are in the solution template. It comes with one app service, application insights, and an event grid, 2 Azure Key Vaults, a service bus, 2 SQL databases, 2 Azure storage accounts, 2 virtual machine scale sets. These are your ledger nodes, so it comes with 2 by default. And then 2 network resource groups, load balancers, public IP addresses, etc. And then optional, if you want, you can have an Azure monitor just to make sure that you are staying within your consumption. Okay, so let's go to new. I'll show you exactly how easy it is to spin this up. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to do a resource prefix, right? We'll just call this test. And virtual machine username, we'll call it, say, VM admin. You can set your passwords over here. Okay, set your passwords for your virtual machines. Okay, we'll go ahead and set the database password. We'll confirm it. This is probably the most time-consuming part about launching this blockchain network. And we'll create a new resource group. We'll call this test also. I already have something, so we'll just call this demo maybe. Yeah, that works. Okay, and we can set which location that we want. Maybe we'll do East US. We're based in New Jersey over here. We'll click OK. We can configure some additional options. So what this means is you can either create a new blockchain network, or let's say you want to join an existing one. At that point, you're going to have to connect an existing RPC endpoint. Again, if all these terms are something that you want to know more about, please just send us an email. We'll be happy to spend some time, explain all this. Okay, you can change the size of your validator nodes, because the more transactions you have to validate, the more the larger storage you need. You might need some sort of requirements, but okay. We'll go ahead, we'll click OK, and you're done. That's it. That's all that you needed to launch your blockchain network. Now, look, I'm not saying that you're ready to go at this point, but at least you didn't have to worry about piecing everything together, right? At least at this point, now we just have to worry about the business process. Let's work on the smart contracts at this point, as opposed to piecing everything together. So that's it. I can go ahead and hit OK. I'm not going to do that at this point. And they say on average it takes around 90 minutes to provision all the different parts. Okay, so we just created our blockchain workbench that creates our Ethereum private, the private Ethereum network, proof of authority consensus, and you're ready to go and start developing your smart contracts at that point. Here's what you get. Here's the blockchain workbench. Remember we were talking about the applications, the enabled applications. We'll show you. So we have one for coffee shipment. We have one for invoice reconciliation, and then we also have one for supply chain transportation. Okay, so we're going to focus on this coffee one. So here it is. We're looking at our application. Again, this is your user interface. Is it the end result? No, right? This is probably not what you want your users to use, but at least this gives you something to start to understand where the ROI is without having to spend a lot of time building it. Okay, so we have our smart contracts. Probably heard smart contracts before. I know I said it at least maybe 25 times in this webinar. So we have our smart contracts. We have, let's see, we can make this bigger. We have shipment to retail A. Again, we have a coffee supply chain example here. So shipment to retail A, shipment B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. Right? Let's just open up this smart contract. This is shipment F. Interesting. What do we see? We see that it's been through a lot of different state changes, right? Here's the state changes. That one was the shipment was created. And then we see that something else was created. We see that something's in transit. And then we see that something's out of compliance. So we could take a look at the most recent activity, right? We're in our user interface, and we see that we're ingesting telemetry, which means that we're simulating over here some IoT device, which is getting some information from a shipment. And we took a reading of humidity of 2 and temperature of 3. And for those blockchain fans out there, this happened in this block number, this block ID, this block number here. Here's the block hash. Remember I was talking about those 0x's. So here's the address it came from. Here's the transaction hash. So we have here the temperature is 30. Interesting. So when we take a look at the min humidity and max humidity, see we set up our parameters. We set up -10, +10, -10, +10. If the telemetry ingestion was above max 10, the smart contract says it needs to fall out of compliance because maybe we're transporting some sort of product, in this example, coffee, that if it gets over 10 degrees, we don't want to take the shipment anymore. So we can see the temperature was 30. Instantly cancel, and we can send all sorts of notifications. But let's go ahead and see some of this in action, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll create a new contract. And let's say that we need to go ahead and make a description, right? So we'll do shipment H. And here's where we can put in our different devices. Let's pretend, for example, that this device is an IoT device. And just so I don't have to switch between the different screens, I'm going to make myself the owner, the observer. Min humidity, let's say -20. Max humidity for this shipment is going to be 20. Min temperature is 20. Max temperature is 20. And we're going to go ahead and create. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create this. It's going to work. And here we go. We just created a smart contract. And again, just to kind of showcase, here's the contract address. We can see that it was in a specific block number, 1,666,334, right? We have these blocks that are creating every 15 seconds and the data just got trapped right into that, right? So here's our application, and we're able to showcase some of this, okay? Let's go ahead and take another action on here. So we'll go ahead and pick one, and we can assign an RFID code to this one, okay? But at this point, let's go ahead and let's go assign our RFID, and let's call this, device A, for example. So we'll go ahead and we'll assign the RFID tag. Again, this is just to showcase over here. We'll go take an action. At this point, I'm going to transfer the responsibility, and I'm going to transfer the responsibility to Jason at this point. Let's go ahead and take action. And you see, we start moving down different states at this point. All right. So I just transferred the responsibility. And at this point, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to, ingest the telemetry. Let's say that Jason's about to take this container. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and say that at the time the humidity is 0, the temperature is 0, and the timestamp, again, this could be automated, but let's just say this is 2:54 p.m. Okay, we'll go ahead and take action. There you go, and we'll do one more thing, and we'll update the location. And when we do that, we need to update the latitude, the longitude, and the timestamp. So I have over here for quick reference, let's go ahead and add the latitude. Let's go ahead and add the longitude. Okay, and again, we need the timestamp. So let's say this happened at 2:55. Again, this could be all be integrated with IoT devices, so you don't have to fill any of this stuff out. But again, we're just showing this. So this is cool, right? I mean, it's showing you something. You could see some blockchain information on here. You could see that, you know, we can simulate certain things. This is nice. Let's go ahead and show you now as a separate thing. What you can do is here's this application. So we'll go ahead and hit the refresh button really quickly. And now you see this is completely different. But remember, we have these applications over here. Here's coffee, reconciliation, and supply chain. You know, this is another sort of user interface that you can make in order to make it look a little bit different. And here's all our shipments. Now we're at shipment H. And look over here. Now we have a different feeling, right? So when we start developing on top of this, now we can put all sorts of APIs with Bing Maps, for example, saying that, look, now we have this shipment, which is coming in from Jamaica. We have some Blue Mountain coffee coming. So my favorite, you know, and we see that the status is in transit. And we have, you know, your parameters, min, max, and the current is 0. So again, you know, you were able to see all that with the Workbench, with this user interface. It shows you the status of the entire shipment. It shows you all the information that you need. It shows you some information. You can click around, you can get this information, but then you could do other things after that once you prove the ROI. Like you can build a user interface on top of that, you know, and show something like the consumer view, the admin view, etc. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and show you what this report looks like. So we'll go ahead and launch Power BI. So here's Power BI. I know I got just a couple minutes, and this is only going to take a second. And we're going to go ahead and open up this Power BI template. So we'll look for templates. And again, everyone that attends this can send us an email at info@envisionblockchain.com, and we'll send you this template. No worries there. So here, we did all the plumbing for you. All you have to do is add the SQL Server name and the database name that comes specifically out of the box with that. So I'm with the Workbench. So I'm going to go ahead and put in these server informations. So let's just put in the server name. And now I'm putting in the database name. I'm doing this in a separate screen, and I'm loading. So hopefully this works. We'll wait a second for this to refresh. Loading our data model. And there you go. So here, the first screen just tells a little bit about Envision Blockchain. The second gives you some instructions. We have a glossary of terms for you to understand what it is that you're looking at. And here's your Envision Blockchain Watchtower report. So here's the 3 applications that we showed you. So if you want to take a look at the coffee report, what you have to do is click on coffee. And you see this is the contract 13 that we just launched. So we'll take a look at contract 13. And it filters everything else out. And now we could see that, you know, this was launched at 3:52. Probably just have to make an adjustment on the time. This is coming in from UTC because of a SQL Server. So we just have to do some work on the back end. But basically, this is showing you your contract action timestamp, what happened, what was the contract input, the description, the device, the humidity, latitude, longitude, everything that we mentioned, right? What blockchain ledger it is, the block number. Then we have our state history, right? We have created, in transit, etc. And we can go to the Blockchain Explorer. And here's where it's showing you all the blocks. right? We have all of these blocks with transactions. We have 53 blocks with all the transactions in this, and here's the block number. Again, this gives you a really quick way for you to go ahead and see what's going on within your blockchain applications without actually having to spend a lot of time on building the reports like we showed you, right? This is like a one-click deployment for the Azure Blockchain Workbench, one-click deployment for this Power BI Envision report template. And again, you know, we like to say, focus less time on technology, focus more time on the business, and your proof of concepts and your blockchain solutions will definitely experience a greater ROI. So last but not least, we do also say that if you go to our website over here, you see we have our solutions and services, knowledge repository, you go to downloads, and you'll see this free Power BI report template. So just simply go on there. If you don't want to send us an email and info and Envision, just go ahead, fill this information out, hit the submit button, and we'll send it to you as soon as we can. So I'll stay on for a couple more minutes. I'm going to open up the line to see if anyone has any questions. If not, then we really appreciate the time that you took, and we'll see you again next month.